December 18, 1945. One of the finest, bravest, and most daring of soldiers stationed near Georgefield has never worn a uniform, never carried a gun, and has never even seen one of the famed C-46s or C-47s of the Troop Carrier Command. He has never slept in a barracks and never won a stripe. He's an exemplary soldier to each and every man of the field. Percy Nightingale was born in Decatur, Indiana, about 30 years ago. He went to school there and enjoyed the sports that make all young boys' lives happy. Until he was 18 years old, he had never left his native state. When he finally did leave, he went out like heroes in the fairy tales to seek his fortune. Driving a truck may not be the most glamorous job in the world, but there is the dignity in it of making the honest living, and Percy saw more of the United States. He was working with a Spectre Motor Service Incorporation and his route van from New Britain, Connecticut, and St. Louis. He liked his run. He liked the world, and there were no complaints on Percy's register. When he was 22, he was driving his truck empty back to Chicago. It was a cold day, and the trailer tires had to be removed. The other fellow who worked with him sat inside the station because Percy had volunteered to do the job, but fate took hold of the situation with cruel hands. The last tire to be removed blew up completely in Percy's face. For 56 days he lay in St. Anthony's Hospital in Chicago. His jaw was broken. Several teeth had been knocked out. His face was swollen almost beyond recognition. His nose was smashed. His left ear was damaged. And Percy was blind, totally and forever, with absolutely no perception of light or shadows. 2 years later, he made a trip to Morristown, New Jersey, to the home of the CNI. There, the home took his cane away from him. They had him walk up and down stairs unaided. They taught him to use a knife at the table. They instructed and practiced. Attending a class of 8, Percy learned to see with people from all over the country and Canada. Then they gave him a Clip, Percy's alter ego. Clip is Percy's other self. Clip is Percy's eye, bright and clear and intelligent. Clip is Percy's CNI dog. Percy opened a grocery store until the war made too great a personal shortages of help, and he was forced to give it up. There was not more pleasant man to be found. Embitterment was meant for smaller men than he. For the kindly, smiling, blind man who sells magazines and newspapers in the PX is Percy Nightingale. He has been with Georgefield for 3 years. He is happy there. Are no complaints on Percy's register. With Clip curled up behind the counter and Percy smiling and bidding the day to many, one is reminded of Kipling's If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, you'll be a man, my son. June 13, 1946. Percy Nightingale set up his newsstand in the lobby of the Vincennes Post Office at 501 Busson Street, and through daylight hours on weekdays and on Sunday morning until about 12:30 p.m. he will be doing business there. August 2nd, 1962. Ginger, who was guide for a blind news dealer, comes to an end of a trail. The faithful eyes of Percy Nightingale were closed forever Thursday morning. The eyes were those of Ginger, his seeing eye dog, for his constant companion for the last 11 years. Ginger, a boxer who had been suffering from arthritis. Her condition became critical this week, and she was taken to the veterinary. She was beyond cure, and with regret the decision was made to put her to sleep. Mr. Nightingale, the blind news dealer in the post office lobby, has had 2 seeing eye dogs in the last 23 years. His first one was Flip, a German shepherd. She died of infirmities. Also in 1949, Percy took the loss of the dog philosophically. He did not want her to suffer any more. She gave her life to him. She slept by his bed. She took him to work and brought him home. He was the one who fed her and took care of her. He was contrasting the 2 dogs Thursday morning. Flip, he said, was faster dog. When she took Percy in tow, they passed about just everybody on the street. Ginger was more deliberate. He said Ginger liked to shop in the stores. Flip didn't. When I went into the store with Flip and was ready to leave, she was always ready to go, but not Ginger. She wanted to shop around. I would have to get tough with her sometimes. Seeing eye dogs know right from left. When they come to a barrier, the dog will always take a quarter turn to the right. They have to be commanded to turn left. Dogs also have to be taught disobedience. If a blind person comes to a barrier, the dog will stop and will refuse to obey the command, go forward. Other dogs sometimes cause trouble. Do you know what I said when Ginger got too interested in another dog? Percy asked. I just say, phooey. Guess that means shame or something to a dog. Percy said he would notify the Seeing Eye Dog Institute at Morristown, New Jersey, of Ginger's death, and he hopes to get another one soon. They are in great demand, but Percy believes he will be given priority. June 3rd, 1963. Tragedy strikes the Nightingale family. Charles Nightingale, 18, loses life in a Monday night crash. A Vincennes teenager was killed, another seriously injured in a one-car crash south of Vincennes near the Vincennes Gun Club. Charles M. Nightingale, 18, was killed when the car driven by Jerry Abel, 18, at 224 South 22nd Street, went out of control, traveling at a high rate of speed, turned over and struck a tree. Nightingale, 1963 Lincoln High School graduate, was the son of Mr. and Mrs. Percy Nightingale of 1105 Seminary Street. Abel, according to Jack Durrell, 221 West Lindell Street, an eyewitness to the crash, was thrown clear of the speeding auto, which went out of control as it came out of a curve, crossed the highway, and went down an embankment, striking a tree and scooting several feet before coming to rest. Durrell told coroner George Gardner that he was traveling about 250 yards behind Abel's car when he saw the crash. Durrell said he saw the car turn off a gravel road and then take off at a high rate of speed. Nightingale was pinned in the car. Durrell, who stopped to give assistance, said he told the coroner that Abel appeared to be all right when he stopped, but then Nightingale was having difficulty breathing. He said he rushed to the nearest farmhouse when he called for aid. He then rushed back to the scene and removed Nightingale from the car and attempted to administer first aid. He said he tried to stop the flow of blood by searching for pressure points and had learned about that in high school health class, but was unable to do so. Young Nightingale died en route to the Good Samaritan Hospital. Coroner Gardner gave the cause of death as a broken neck and skull fracture. Abel is listed in fair condition at the Good Samaritan Hospital. He received fractures of the clavicle, jaw, shoulder, pelvis, along with cuts and abrasions. The car, 1958 Chevrolet Impala, was a total wreck. Sheriff deputies said the car skidded 47 feet on the road, 120 off the right-hand side of the road, and then veered to the left side. Then it skidded 91 feet diagonally across the road, struck the tree, and then spun 57 feet into the field. Deputies would not estimate the speed. However, they said Abel was undoubtedly traveling at a high rate of speed when his car went out of control. In all, the car skidded 315 feet from the point where it apparently went out of control. Percy Nightingale, 57, 1105 Seminary Street, died at 6:45 a.m. at his newsstand at the local post office. He was born March 17, 1915, in Decker, a son of Richard and Lily Mull Nightingale, and was married to Cynthia Blanton Nightingale, November 16, 1946. In 1937, he was working for a trucking company in Chicago, Illinois, when a tire exploded and blinded him. He returned to Vincennes and operated a grocery store on McKinley Avenue after having trained and lost 3 seeing-eye dogs. He reverted to a cane in 1946. He became a newsstand operator and worked in that capacity until his death. He was a member of the Central Church of Christ. Surviving besides his wife are son Estelle Ray Nightingale, Brazil, a sister, Miss Hazel Wheatley, Vincennes, and a brother, Edward Nightingale, Beattyville, Kentucky. In closing, I never knew Percy Nightingale, but all the information I've heard and read about Percy, he never let his handicap get him down. He worked his entire time, died at his job. He was well known in the community, praised and honored in many ways. He visited schools and talked about his handicap and talked about his seeing-eye dog. Percy was the genuine thing, an honorable man. Some people weren't so honorable. He was cheated in money-changing schemes by people. His business would be robbed. He always seemed to be positive in his life, and he never let his handicap get him down. He never took handouts. When his last seeing-eye dog passed away, people started funds for him. Today they be GoFundMe pages. They raised money for him to buy a new seeing-eye dog, but he refused it. He refused handouts because he always seen himself as a capable man providing for himself and his family. Even through tragedy of losing his son, he continued to be a positive thinking person in his life. I believe we all should strive to be more like Mr. Percy Nightingale, a true man.